Wait, just setting up. Okay, hang on. Maybe not in like 5 seconds. All right, cool. Looks like we are. So
Yep.
cool, awesome. We are live. So thank you so much for being a part of Hannah's Corner as one of our guests. And yeah, so maybe we could just, if you wouldn't mind, maybe talking a little bit about kind of how your workflow, maybe what you've been up to the last several weeks, maybe how adjusting to this new, the kind of the adjustments we've had to make, how has that been? And maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So obviously, just like everybody else, it's been a very strange time, major adjustments. I am lucky in that my two main jobs, which are teaching at UNC Greensboro and then East Carolina University, where I teach jazz piano and voice and arranging and theory and some other stuff. Luckily, those have all just transitioned to being online classes, so I didn't lose my jobs there. So, teaching Zoom lessons and Zoom classes is weird, but I was doing that a few times a week. This is the end of the semester this week, so everybody's doing their final projects off by themselves. So it's really sucked not getting to see my students one-on-one. That's been the hardest thing, just, especially some of them are seniors and they had to have their recitals canceled. So that is a big drag. But, we've tried to keep things moving by having guests come in and do master classes, which is really nice just to have something sort of different and sort of just make amends with the fact that it's not going to look the same as a regular semester is going to look, and know that kids are working with a wide degree of privilege as far as, access to technology and Wi-Fi and good instruments. So, most of my energy has just gone to that and making sure that things are still moving and that I'm not dropping the ball on anybody. But as far as being creative and making music, I have been in a online songwriting course with a great writer from Nashville named Craig Brothers, which actually just ended, but we were planning on doing some co-writing after that. So the nice thing about that was that I had homework every week, which, especially when you're just teaching all the time, it's so nice to have someone else tell you what to do. So honestly, and I'm sure some other musicians can maybe relate to this, it's been really hard to make myself just sit at the piano and do anything. I'm also just working with my keyboard. I don't have a real piano or access to one right now. So I've just been trying to write my one song for my class every week. And I've just kind of been like, well, if I get some lyrics on paper, then I'm going to call it good and not beat myself up. So that's kind of been it. Music has felt pretty weird, to be honest. So if I can just get one song out a week, it feels like a victory. Yeah.
Very strange for me too. Just
right.
I don't know. I've seen the gamut. Some musicians are cranking out some beautiful music and inspirational things, and I'm in the fence. I'm in the camp where I kind of feel really drained and mellow, and just I'm taking it all in. I'm almost pulling back my creative energy, is storing it for I think when things kind of rev up again. I think that's the time maybe it'll hit me, but I feel that. I definitely feel
right. And it has made me realizing how much energy I get from playing with other people,
Yeah. You don't realize it until it's gone.
Yeah, but it's so hard to just have all of your inspiration come from yourself. I really miss just playing casually, just with people, just at gigs, just playing standards, not even doing a whole organized thing, but just having somebody else's music in your ears for a night, right in front of you. That's something special. And I don't really want to just try to recreate it on Zoom and, patch things in and out. I just want the real thing.
I know. It doesn't do it justice. It really doesn't. And I'm a millennial, right? So we have to know these things, but I must be a late adopter. I have not still gotten on the camp of using a cappella or any of these apps. I see so many of my colleagues and friends rocking it. Like, they produce 10 squares, they got 14 instruments, and they make it look so easy. So I really am blown away by that drive to learn technology quickly, which I personally am very late to adopt.
Well, you're
Well, I just enjoy conversations and seeing kind of what people are up to, how they're coping with COVID, from a musical perspective, and maybe retreating, like myself, and maybe some tips of tips and tricks. But you and I both have in common that we're teaching right now, and I just started teaching personally. I have one student who I'm working with online who I'm teaching her some jazz transcriptions by ear, which is kind of a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Haley in the last one, it's just like that's how I learned to play when I was a young girl, listening to Oscar Peterson transcriptions. And I think we might have that in common, actually, because I
Yeah.
was reading on your bio about kind of when you were young, and you started playing, what, 4, 5?
Yeah. I mean, my parents were pianists, so I was just like always around it.
Oh, that's right, both classically trained pianists.
Right.
How did you then get into jazz if your parents were classically trained?
To tell you the truth, I'm not totally sure. I know that for some reason we had these Oscar and Ella and Meltzer Major cheering. We had these CDs just laying around the house. I think they must have had some friends that liked them and just left them. But at some point, I just was listening to them in a Walkman when I was like 7 years old, and I don't think my parents knew what it was, but I was just walking around like bopping to, I don't know, Ella Louie or something. And once they figured out what it was, they're like, "Oh, we can get you lessons for this." We were living in LA at the time, and they were both working in different music schools. So they're like, "We can find you a jazz teacher." So luckily, somebody was willing to teach. My teacher, Jack Labner, was willing to teach an 8-year-old girl jazz piano, and then that was just kind of it. I was exposed to it, and I was already playing piano anyways, and just like you were saying, sounding things off by ear all the time. So it just was a really natural thing, like, oh, I'll just sound this other tune out. That's a jazz tune. And then I was very much a product of, like, we moved to Seattle, and then I went through the Seattle jazz academic system of the middle school and the high school and going to all the festivals. So, and I had a great teacher there too. So I just kind of, that was it. I never really felt like, oh, I'm picking this and choosing this. It was like, this is what I'm doing.
Relate, when we were starting out, very much felt like there were two camps. It was like a classical camp or a jazz camp, and
Right.
now it feels like, oh my gosh, there's so much more nuance. There's like a pop world, there's like an R&B world, there's all these like niche, genre overlapping. In which when we were starting, it was like, oh, when we were both like 7, it's like, make up your mind, either you're gonna replicate music or innovate and improvise. Like, which side of the fence are you on?
Yeah, it's a dichotomy, right?
So you said you were part of the festival circuit. I wanted to ask you how you've played at some pretty prestigious festivals, the Tokyo Jazz Festival, Montreal. I mean, you've been in the circuit. Was that kind of part of the Seattle kind of community? Did they foster those connections?
That was actually, I moved away from Seattle when I was 18 and I went to college. So while I was in school in Miami, I put out my first record and then subsequently put out second record. And those are both on a Canadian record label, Just in Time Records, which is in Montreal. So because of those 2 records, the label and the management there was able to get me on those circuits. So kind of promoting the new records. So yeah, so obviously the Montreal Jazz Festival, that connection, it's just right there, right in the backyard of the label. And they also distributed my album in Japan. So that was the Tokyo connection. Yeah, and a lot of the other ones, it was all clumped in around the record releases. So luckily they, did PR for it and sent my stuff out to a bunch of different festivals. And then the ones that bit, I got to go and play and bring my trio from Montreal that I'd recorded with. So that was really great. Although now we'll see if I ever play it one ever again.
I know, definitely you will. No, the things, it will definitely never be the same, but it will be for the better, hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. I think music certainly has changed now, and the accessibility and kind of how we're viewing it, I feel like will be different forever. So
yeah, really.
Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's really neat. Are you so Just in Time connected you with the trio. You didn't know them prior.
I didn't know. I think I came up to do a gig before recording the first record or something, and then they just got 2 of the best local people to play, Jim Doxis and Adrian Badati, drummer and bassist respectively, and we just hit it off. So I was like, oh yeah, this is a great band. I'd love to take them on the road when I can. So I don't get to work with them all the time, obviously, because North Carolina, Canada, but when I can and when it works out with their visas, since they're Canadian, I just love touring with them. They're so nice. They're so fun. If they're watching. Hi, Jim and Adrian. No, yeah, but it's just like, not only are they great musicians, they're just really easy to be around, really great people. So it was kind of just a no-brainer after those first couple of gigs. It was like, oh yeah, great, okay, let's make a record.
That's not always easy to find, to click with people.
Yeah.
Something, with my style of music, that's kind of, I'm in this niche kind of area where I'm not like super traditional jazz, more contemporary. It's sometimes challenging to find some people who really understand your sound and where you are. So for you to have that click right away is really great. I mean, that's sometimes I feel like artists will just go for years and years to find before clicking that way.
Yeah, totally. It's not easy.
Yeah, great. So let's see. So what about your singing? So because you're another fellow women jazz artist who sings, composes, plays. Oh my gosh. So how do you navigate? This is just a personal question because I
Yeah.
really would like to know just how you can sing sitting down. I know we have to. I mean, do you have any tips or tricks for how to both look so effortless as you do, but be good at it?
Sure. I mean, my posture sucks right now because I'm like being aggressive. If I were to sit up correctly, I just try to keep things really natural and uncontorted. It's easy now. So a lot of times when people are playing, they can get into some weird posture things, and people do like the Brad,
Right.
Weird. It's like, and I do that too, especially if I'm just playing. It's easy to be like reacting to something and just kind of not aware of your body. But when I am singing, and this obviously, if you contort anything in your body, and really anywhere in your body, not just your upper body, if you're doing weird things with your feet, that can affect your voice too, since your whole body is your instrument. So I try to just think about keeping everything really relaxed and loose. So before I sing, and I'll do this with my voice students, I like to just do some kind of baby yoga stretches and loosening up my shoulders, being aware whether I have had a lot of tension in my mouth and jaw throughout the day. Especially if you have a habit to like clench your jaw, that will come out when you're singing. Or if you have a habit to stick your tongue really hard on the roof of your mouth. I know I do that when I'm like over caffeinated, so I've been trying to not do that, because all of that tension will manifest itself when you sing, and it can also mess with just your how relaxed you're able to be. So instead of feeling like, okay, I have my voice technique and the piano technique, right, I just try to think everything's relaxed, so that so it's just arm weight on the keys, and it's just the same amount of exertion as if I'm talking. I'm not belting. I'm not doing a weird head voice thing.
Yeah.
And that
your voice is so pretty too. It's like a very conversational, your tone.
Oh, thanks.
Unadulterated, which it's very just, mellow. It's beautiful. Really.
Thank you.
How did you work to get your tone? Is that like, so for me, when I just started singing, like when I was way later, like 14, and started taking lessons, I was called having like a Nora Jones tone.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, and I got enabled as that, and now I've been working to develop tone. Did you kind of immediately get into that tone, or did you kind of have to figure out that's where you wanted to end up?
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not a super trained vocalist. Like, I've had a handful of lessons which have been great, and they've, fixed some physical things. But as far as working on a tone, it's just been listening. So I've just listened to, as you have too, so many hours of singers that I enjoy that I think it just comes out unconsciously sometimes. But I am conscious of changing my tone based on the style of music I'm doing. So if I'm singing a standard, I'm going to be going for the singers that I really love personally. I love Carmen McRae. I love Shirley Horn. I love Nancy Wilson. So for singing a jazz standard, I really love kind of a warmer, darker timbre, and maybe something a little more articulated rhythmically. So I do have like a thing I go for when I'm singing a jazz standard. However, if I'm singing a pop tune, if I'm singing one of my own originals, which I might do later on this, I'm not singing it the way I'm going to sing I'm old-fashioned. I'm not going to sing it the way I would like scat a solo, right? So when I'm doing that, then I'm more thinking just like a pure tone. I don't want to have vibrato. I don't want to have any affectations. I just want to sound very conversational, which I do, to a point, think about when I'm singing jazz, but jazz is so much more of a tradition and a lineage of, okay, you're sounding like this person who is trying to sound like this person who's trying to sound like this person who's trying to sound like Louis Armstrong, right? So like I want to do honor to that tradition of I'm emulating a certain person and I'm like copying some little tricks. But when I'm singing my own original, I just want to sound kind of like neutral me, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to manipulate it at all.
Interesting. Kind of, I've never thought of it that way. I know, for me, it's kind of, I try to, I guess I come off sounding the same for everything, but I haven't thought about that. That's unique. I also hear, do you listen to, Billie Holiday quite a bit?
Yes.
Is she up there on your list? Because I hear some of qualities and your some similarities, and I love her too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously she's like sacred.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So, in terms of just if we can backtrack a little, so I was again stalking your bio because it's so beautiful and so rich with accolades. I saw you were in New York for a period of time, and you said you kind of did that New York thing for a bit, and then started teaching, right? And had the university position, teaching and performing. I'm just wondering, like, what if you can contrast those different periods in your life, maybe, because I know a lot of artists think like New York is the answer, or moving to a big city is the answer, and what about balance? I'm also hear people say, no, I want to balance. I want to teach. I want to play. I want to have a little more leisure in a smaller town, maybe with a quieter pace of life. So what are your thoughts on those two experiences?
Sure, yeah. And that's always like the jazz musician thing, right? Is
Some of the quandary.
right. I guess, I mean, if I could sum it up into one short thing and then I'll talk about it more, I think if you're really happy with yourself and with what's happening in your life, then you're going to be happy in New York and you're going to be happy in a tiny town in Alaska, whatever. You'll be happy on the moon, because you won't be needing to get that outside validation from wherever you are. If you're going to a certain place to fulfill something that's missing in yourself, then you might be disappointed, even if you have a great experience there. If you're overly romanticizing it, or if you're turning it into something that it's just not, it's just a place, right?
Right.
So my experience in New York was that I went there during a time in my life when I was really not sure what to do. And it just kind of felt like the default, like, oh, I don't really know where I want my career to go. I don't know where I want my personal life to go. I'll just throw my crap in the car and drive to New York and pay too much for a room, right? And it was super exciting. It was really fun to be there. I, stayed out every night until 4 a.m, hanging out at Smalls and doing all the stupid things that you're supposed to do. It was really fun being around so many young musicians, which is not always something that you get to experience outside of like jazz camp or college. So it honestly just kind of felt like jazz camp all the time, which was great, but also very unsustainable.
Yeah.
It's fine when you're like 18, but 8-9 years later, that part was really fun at first, and then it's like, okay, I need to get some work. So I was luckily able to gig a lot pretty quickly. I was doing a lot of accompanying, and I was just playing, gigs that didn't pay great with whoever would call me, and it was fun. And I was just running around to a lot of clubs and dragging my keyboard around the village and stuff. But it felt like I had to maintain such a frenetic pace to just pay my bills. And I was also traveling back and forth a lot to North Carolina to keep teaching at UNC Greensboro. So I was like taking the Amtrak and taking the bus and flying and spending all my money. So I just had to work so much and be moving all the time and like sleeping in like 4 different places every week. I was like, this is gonna kill me. This is really unsustainable. So after like 7 or 8 months, I decided, I just can't renew my lease. This is too crazy. I'll come back to North Carolina for now. And right when I got back to North Carolina, I got offered another teaching job at East Carolina University. So at first I thought maybe I'll just, cool my jets for a week or two or for a month or two or whatever and figure it out. But then once I got that, it was like, okay, maybe this is a sign that I should take this job and figure out what I really want my priority to be in work and in life right now. And I had sort of known the whole time that I really did love teaching, but I think sometimes, at least for me, we can kind of internalize as performing musicians that teaching is like a cop-out in a way, or it's what you do and you can't gig. But I was realizing that I would play these gigs and just feel so drained at the end of them and not feel like I was giving anything to the world that needed to be given. Especially like when you're playing background music for tourists in a bar. It's like, who cares? Not that they can't be really fun, but I would just have too many of those experiences. And then I would go teach my university students and just feel really energized. And it felt like worthwhile work for me. And it's different for everybody. Some people just thrive off of performing all the time and touring all the time. And some people really don't like teaching. But for me, it was like, okay, being in this environment where I have some room to breathe, like you're saying, it's a slower pace. I can have my car, I can have my house, I can practice. I don't have to just work all the time to feel like I'm gonna stay afloat.
Because you have to feed your music too. Well, I always have known myself being as like one of these highly sensitive people, where it's like, to feed my creativity, I have to restore, right? And I can imagine just that pace, something I'm considering too in my career, just looking ahead to touring. I'm all about them, all about the gigging, but I'm all about balance. So I hear you talk a lot about, having that balance, feeling energized by your students. That's like a beautiful sentiment. I think something about young people these days, I don't know, they just keep getting more and more inspiring. Just when, for me, I mean, I'm no teacher. I'm just started. I'm very green into teaching, but just with my little amount of work with young, children, just inspiring. They bring such a fresh perspective. And a willingness.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you're enjoying where you're at right now, and you're also managing to continue to produce music. So is this your third album now, or your fourth? This BFF?
BFFs is the third one. So that one's it's a collaboration, obviously, with my BFF, Chad Eby, who is technically he's my boss at UNC Greensboro, but we're also just coworkers and have been gigging together for years. So we recorded that last June at the end of a very long day teaching at a jazz camp together in Virginia. And we just kind of, we had like 4 hours to use the stage of this auditorium where we've been teaching the camp all day. And we just had one guy recording us with just, a mic in the room. So it's very raw, very...
I thought it was like weeks and like real, like done in a studio. It sounds so professional.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, that's credit goes to our producer. The guy that was engineering for us. He knew what he was doing. But so we had been playing some of those tunes, and we wrote some tunes for each other. But it was very much like, let's see what happens. And then since it came out, and Chad just put it out on Bandcamp, it's not on a label because we just did it together. We did some touring just in the States with it. We went to like Iowa and Virginia and Ohio, Wisconsin, a few places, just driving around. So it was really fun and tiring always. I don't know. Sound like such an old person on this, but
tiring always. Yeah. So where did you guys play? Did you try to go like some jazz clubs or? Okay. Yeah,
we did. Everywhere we went was either a club or a university. We also played at some different schools and did some, because he's the director of jazz studies at UNC Greensboro. So we do a lot of educational work as well. And it's fun because doing clinics with two people is so much easier than just standing up there by yourself. So we kind of worked out some things to talk about with the nuance of duo playing and, just co-writing and co-working, since that's not always the easiest thing to negotiate.
Yeah, for sure. So, and are you maybe tonight going to play a song off the BFFs album? Can't wait to hear.
I could. I actually have some new.
You didn't. You weren't planning on it.
What's that?
No pressure if you weren't planning on it. I just wondered.
I think they'll just be a little bit sad with only one BFF. But I do have some other songs I could play if you'd like me to do those instead.
Oh, that's right. I remember we talked about this before. Well, I can definitely play an excerpt for everyone from my laptop just for a quick second so you can hear the beautiful pieces from there. All right.
Time to go. Let's do it right. Go out loud. So I will leave you tenderly or bitterly, but not but not like this, without a backward glance. Did all our feeling die the moment love was over? Well, let it be, 'cause I still feel you in my soul.
So beautiful.
Thanks.
Ah, that's gorgeous. Cool. Wait, and I probably should be familiar, but I'm not, so I'll ask. Is that an original or is that a standard?
I mean, it's not really a standard. I actually can't remember the name of the composer, which is horrible, but it was written for Al Jarreau to sing, which is so weird. So there's this amazing recording of Al Jarreau, and it's all these like very 80s synths backing them up. So Chad pulled that out of somewhere. I was like, we should do this. And it's like, this is the darkest song. I love it. Let's do it.
Did you come up with that arrangement on the fly, both of you in the moment? How did that work?
No, we kind of just played it straight down. I mean, there's not too much arranged in it. It just has these amazing chords already. So we just kind of didn't touch it. It's just like this awesome song, and I hate that I'm blanking on the name of the composer, but it's on the record, so you can look it up.
You can look it up. Is Chad, EB,
and I love it. Yeah.
BFFs. Okay.
Yeah.
Check
So
it out.
anyway,
I will put I can put the link too in our Facebook page so people can
awesome.
just
Thanks.
great. So what's in the works now? So you're done with that? Are you already like looking to produce another single or EP, or are you writing?
I mean, we definitely want to do BFFs Volume 2 because we have a bunch of like new tunes that we worked on before all of this. I want to do that, and then as far as my own stuff, I've kind of been more writing songwriter material, so I'd like to put that out. I have an EP that I recorded all of 2018. That's all originals that I haven't put out yet, just because I recorded it and then I moved to New York, and then like I was talking about, I just didn't put it out because I was just busy writing somewhere all the time. But so I'd like to put that out, but I might want to wait and record a few more originals and then just kind of make it a whole album. So I'm not totally sure I want to do with that, but definitely just writing is my main thing that I want to do right now, especially since I'm just here by myself. You know, playing keyboard is what it is. It's not as fun as playing a real piano for me. Yeah, so I'm just trying to be like, okay, what will feel the most rewarding? It's not going to be just playing because it feels weird on keyboard, and I'm just apparently a baby about that. But definitely writing is more what I want to focus on for now. So hopefully some new originals will be sent out in the world.
The world needs them. You write beautiful music. So I'd love to hear if you're willing to play one of your originals.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Well, forgive me, I am going to look at my own lyrics because like we were talking about earlier, I
I do it all the time. I know how that feels.
Yeah, it's so weird because I have only I haven't played any of these for humans yet, only like on Zoom and on Instagram and stuff. So it's like it feels like I've never played them, even though I've kind of have, I guess. All right, this is a new one. Is that volume okay?
Sounds good.
Cool. This is called The Lake, and I can talk about it more later if you want.
Yeah, we love the backstory.
Across the lake, an empty house, a stately once, but now abandoned. When tide is low, a mercy bed reveals itself across the water. See there, a silver hill. Across the lake, an empty house, ghosts in the starlight meadows. It is lonely. Wait till nightfall, barefoot, careful, wading through sandy shallows, shuttered windows, darkened rooms, a chandelier draped in cobwebs. See there a silver heron dancing a slow ballet. Ghosts in the starlight meadows watching. Easy to imagine parties, lanterns in the garden, blazing their fiery, waltzing in the shadows of the willow tree. Champagne chatter echoes across the empty marshland. Wait till morning, dawn is nearing, golden sunrise, spirits leaving, but sometimes looking out across the quiet lake, a memory lingers, easy to imagine the people, the parties, lanterns in the garden, ladies in the watching in the shadows of the willow tree. Champagne chatter echoes across the empty marshland. Dawn is nearing, golden sunrise, morning comes, spirits leaving, but sometimes looking out across the quiet lake, the empty house, the darkened windows, the light turns on.
It's beautiful. It sounds amazing.
Thank you.
The audio was really good. That's
Oh,
a
good.
piece. It sounded almost had like a lullaby lilt to it. I found it very, very soothing. I think that's a great piece that you chose to play for what's going on in the world right now.
Oh, thank you.
How long ago did you write that?
I think like 3 weeks ago. I'm totally losing track of time, but
Yes. It isn't recorded yet.
no, only crappily on Instagram.
Have you done the Instagram live yet? Ooh, I hear that's people.
I just like it's too awkward because what if you just go on and there's just one person watching you and I just can't do it.
But no, that's gorgeous. It's a beautiful. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
to be released. So it'll probably go on your next album then.
I hope so, yeah.
Great, great. So now tell us a little about the backstory because there's a lot of vivid imagery that comes through in that. So I wonder what inspired the reflections.
Yeah, sure. So one of the assignments that I had for this songwriting class I'm in with this guy Craig Crothers that I really liked was to write a song that didn't have any pronouns in it. So no personal pronouns. So I, they, he, she, you, me. And for songwriters, that can be really hard because so much of songwriting feels really confessional and you want to talk about yourself or you want to talk about a person. And to make it make sense, I had to think about a really strong story that could stand by itself without feelings, basically, without saying, and this is how I feel now. So I was actually inspired by, this is dorky, but I was inspired by this movie that I watched, which if you've seen any Miyazaki movies, like the Studio Ghibli movies, like My Neighbor Totoro, so it's that guy.
It's a beautiful score. I can
What's
tell you.
that?
I bet those movies have a beautiful score. I have not seen them, but I know
Yeah.
Japanese composers are out of the world typically.
Yeah, sure. So this is an animated movie from that same studio, and it's called When Marnie Was There, and it's this really beautiful little movie about a girl who has to go to northern Japan in Hokkaido for a summer and live with like aunt and uncle or something. So she's kind of lonely, and every night she sneaks out and rows in this rowboat across the lake to look at this empty mansion that's there. And so she kind of cooks up this story in her head of maybe like an imaginary friend that lives there. But it's just this really nice movie, and the imagery in it is really beautiful. It's a lot of like, you know, evening mist, and then the tide comes out and she kind of runs across it barefoot. It's like, oh, I like this so much. And I haven't really written that many songs up until this point that aren't just about something that happened in my own life, if that makes sense. But something about that movie and the way that it's presented, it really made it easy to slip into that kind of childhood brain of like, kind of feeling like maybe there is like a ghost that lives in that house, and maybe if I go out when my aunt and uncle are asleep and I, you know, go on the robot, maybe I will see something. Maybe there is a light turning on up there. So it was fun to just write something not real and not about the world currently, and also not about myself. So getting out of my own head was really fun for that assignment.
A nice form of escapism a little through. I often do that, revert to my, you know, childhood favorite things. I'll put on a Winnie the Pooh, you know, or whatever you need to do to just get through, right?
I'm definitely reverting right now, that's for sure.
Hear your music from your childhood. I mean, there, because, you know, it's a happy time, hopefully, for many of us. So,
Yes.
very happy time. So, well, it's beautiful. It's absolutely really, really pretty. The lyrics are just really evocative. That my mind was like imagining everything you were describing.
Oh, good.
Cool. What else are you going to play for us?
I could do, let's see, I have another original I could do, or I could just play a tune.
I noticed that you have some friends from Quebec, they said, watching. Quebec
Oh.
are on the line. Francois Harel? I don't know. So maybe something they want to hear. I don't know.
Let's see, maybe I wrote a quarantine song. I could do that.
Oh, then you definitely have to play that. Definitely.
All right. Not cheerful, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is another one. I forget what the prompt is for this one was. Oh, it was to not rhyme, but I cheated and rhymed a little bit, so sorry. Yeah, it's okay. And this one doesn't have a name yet, so if you think of something, you can tell me. If that's for anybody. And this was definitely very Joni Mitchell inspired.
Easy now, sinking down through the tissue paper layers of memory. Was it last year? Was it yesterday? All the faces and the places blend together when there's nothing left but time and space to think. Summer morning breeze, our souls in the trees and weeds. We're wondering if I'll ever feel the warmth of a crowd again. Wish I held on tighter. Wish I held on tighter. Wish I had more fight. Distant dream, floating a single petal on a cold, clear street. Nothing left but time and space to think. Summer morning breeze wrestles in the trees and the leaves. We're wondering if I'll ever feel one of a crowd again. Wish I held on tighter. Wish I held on tighter. Wish I had more fight in me. Distant dream floating now, single petal on a cold, clear street.
Very nice. I definitely heard the Joni Mitchell influence.
Guilty.
Well, hey, great inspiration out there. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful imagery. And I had some names like Dream or things pop into my head, but nothing breakthrough.
Yeah, it's hard to name a song. It's easier to write lyrics than
It is the hardest thing, isn't it? You wouldn't think, but the hardest thing. For me, it's writing lyrics that aren't really that make sense. Because I don't know about you. Do you write sometimes stream of consciousness where you just kind of comes out all at once and then you have to make sense of it?
I think I have the opposite problem where I'm too much like, it needs to be a story. And like, sometimes I should just, so if we co-write, then it'll work itself out.
You should, it'll, you should give me your assignment of writing within confines.
Right. That can, sometimes it helps to just like put the blinders, but
yeah, sometimes some constraints do help, but
yeah.
I love your lyrics. They're really, really rich in imagery, and then the piano it's simple enough to where you allow the space for the lyrics to really breathe. So
thank you. Thanks.
Well, I'm sure you will have no trouble thinking of a title, but I'll let you know if anything pops up. Beautiful, beautiful. And then I don't know if you wanted to play maybe one more. Up to you. I know you were playing a little bit of I'm Old Fashioned. I don't know if you want to
Play a standard or something. Let's see.
close out the night.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll do I'm Old Fashioned because I am. Can't go wrong with Cole Porter. I'm gonna do it in some weird keys, so we'll see what happens. So,
are you gonna be transposing in real time, like key shifting, or just doing it in different key?
Just different keys for fun, just because, like, why not quarantine?
Here we go.
I see. Okay, here's I'm Old Fashioned, Cole Porter.
fashion to stay fashion with this year's fancies are passing fancies, holding hands, ease my heart understands fashion, but I don't mind it. It's how I want to be. As long as you're free to stay old-fashioned with me. Just stay old-fashioned with me.
You're going for it. You're going for that low note.
Aggies.
You're thinking about it. Wow. That's a beautiful, incredibly beautiful arrangement.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love hearing fresh arrangements of beautiful ones that have been done time and time again, but yet can still sound so fresh. And so, yeah, I love your harmonies and just there was like a, I don't know, almost not like, not rubato, but just like like a lot of space around it. Like it felt like it wasn't rushed. It was just very, present.
Thank you.
Yeah. Love it. So beautiful. So thank you for playing 3 songs on live stream. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. The audio actually, it sounds pretty good, I have to say.
Good. The last live stream I did, it was just like audio problem after audio problem. It was pretty funny. So I'm glad this one worked out better.
Good. I'm so glad too. Zoom must just be in a good mood today.
Yeah. Don't even jinx it.
Well, thank you so much, Ariel. It's really great to catch up, getting to talk, to have you on Hannah's Corner, and I'm just so excited for the music that you're going to continue to write, and I would love to collaborate in some time in the future once things maybe come back to normal, if they ever do. Yeah, I think we could maybe write some beautiful music if you want to, you can sing, vice versa, whatever.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Hannah, and I hope the rest of these go well too. This is cool that you're doing that, and I definitely needed a distraction to my day, so this was really nice.
Good. And I'm also just seeing as a way to meet people, get to know other jazz artists who are, really kicking butt in the industry and really doing wonderful things and making beautiful music. Because we're all in our little bubbles, but somehow, this gives us an excuse to meet more people and to listen to music. So
Absolutely.
Great. Well, I will let you get back to your night, and thanks for sharing music with all of our listeners. Hopefully some of your friends and family tuned in.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Hannah. Have a good night.
You too, Ariel. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.